Now on PG Podcast Network, it's time for the Year-Round Carnival with Vince Accardi and your host, Racetrack Ralphy.
G'day, thanks for checking out Year-Round Carnival. We're back one more time for 2024, a little year-end special, looking at the best performances of the Spring Racing Carnival, Melbourne, Sydney, wherever they were, including a little one in Hong Kong that's got people jumping, and we're doing it via Vince Accardi's IVR platform from dailysexuals.com.au. G'day, Vince.
Ralphy, good morning.
Mate, they're going around at the moment on fast tracks, but they're not running very fast. So I think it's just better we can talk about these really great horses.
Well, it's all part of the game. We've got to allow all horses to run.
Absolutely,
which is good.
Yep. Somewhat we're doing the top 12 performances of the 2024 Spring via the peak IVR ratings, top 12 winning performances. Of course, There were placings that would probably surpass some of the ones down the bottom end, but we'll start with number one, and that is, unsurprisingly, Via Sistina Cox Plate.
But Via Sistina storms away with 150 to go. She's 5 lengths in front. It's going to be a Cox Plate round, and James McDonald, a century of the very best. Via Sistina by 7 lengths.
And wow, how exciting was that, Vince? That was just, our head rolled off. I've got a quote here from Bruce McAvady, the great man, put it at the top of the list. We've seen some extraordinary things here in the Cox Plate. J-Mac's 100th Route 1 win. He wins the Cox Plate for the third consecutive year. It's the stuff of legends. What did you make of what we saw in the Cox Plate from Via Sistina?
Well, it was pretty stunning, I have to say. I mean, first of all, on the IVR adjusted figures to end up with the plus 14.3s, I guess a highlight within itself, because it's been such a long time before we've been able to get a runner that, in my view, has been genuinely able to break that plus 10 range. And to see a horse do that, it's quite remarkable personally. And they can only happen if there's pressure, like serious pressure, and serious pressure it was, 11.9 first section, Ralphie, above the benchmark standard. That's like 40 years of history at the Valley.
So that's
to
her.
Run that fast.
What was the leader, Pride and Jenny, going in what happened to be her second last race?
I don't have that number there, Ralphie.
Oh, so it was plus 20 range on it.
Plus 20. There you go.
In fact, I'll look it up for sure. But it was just something else. So what the significance of the plus 14 range, that put her on the doorstep of a Winx, of a Makybe Diva and Black Caviar, because I know, even though I started work with you just at the end of the Black Caviar era, you always said the mid-teens, those three were above and beyond most, if not all, and she all of a sudden puts herself in that Mount Rushmore of the mares.
Yeah, it really does, and genuinely sort of, in my view, really closed the gap on a horse like Winx.
Yeah.
In terms of numbers, not a lot between them if you look at it from that perspective. And the other added layer that we have now is we've got that race matrix, which is like a phenomenal guide, Ralphie, to particularly when you want to sort of look at it from a class perspective around the planet. And there it is, a plus 7.6. And from what I can just sort of share from recent times, that puts the horse, on a global scale, from the way I score them, realistically within 2 lengths of anything that's running around on the planet. So it's like right at the top of the tree and would be competitive anywhere.
I should just add too that the raw time was 22.9 lengths above benchmark, hence the track record. So you've adjusted this down 8.6 lengths, and that still puts her on the same podium as a Winx.
Yeah, well, it does, and this is the thing, and this is why that's such an important point that you brought up, Ralphie. When you look at the raw times, and it's a record, these scenarios can really bring a big jolt to the number.
Yep.
And sometimes, even though they put down that score, they're not easily reflected. Like they're not able to just do it again because they're not likely to get exactly the same conditions where it's super fast and you get this sort of tempo, like phenomenal tempo. I mean, if Pride of Jenny's not in the race, maybe the score ends up only being a plus 9 or 10, which is still huge, right?
Yeah.
But it just changes it. And I love it. The Moonee Valley Cox Plate has always been about pressure from the start to finish in most years. In more recent times, we've had a little bit of mixed sort of flavour when it comes to pace, but this season that just went by in terms of a Cox Plate point of view, it was exactly how we see a lot of Cox Plates. High pressure, and usually the best horses stand up and win, and you've got to be true grit. Like, look at this, 11, 9, 6, 2, 4, 8, all smashing the numbers. Like you said, Ralphy, what was it, 20, 22 plus on the Raws? It's awesome. Absolutely awesome.
All right. Now, the second that we're talking facts as far as how fast horses are going, but this one's a bit subjective, or maybe it isn't. Was this Ride of the Year for Blake Shed? Antino, Toorak Handicap.
Antino, every poster winner at the 200 metres. 5 lengths in front of Desert Lightning, El Safina, followed by Craig, but it's all Antino. Blake Shed, take a bow from last to first, has bolted in.
All right, Vince. Now, this blew us away. Of course, this was the leader bias Caulfield Guineas track where Antino came from last. And Tony Golan post-race said, "This year I knew I had him as good as I've ever had him. It was just a matter of luck on the day. He took that into his own hands and got the job done." And that included Blake Shin's stunning ride to take off at the 800-metre mark, hit the lead and just keep going. How good was Antino this day in the Toorak? This was the second best performance of the spring.
Yeah, well, this is interesting, Ralphie. No doubt you've got something that you can share with the members, what do you call them, the Group 1 members?
Yeah, well, we're sending this to all our members as a thank you to the end of the year.
Which is fantastic, right? And you'll see this little chart there, and I look at Antino, because Antino was like, whilst I didn't mark it as the 2 horses that I most want to see in 2025, it's one that I have to take, very careful consideration about trying to understand the relationship of this horse and where it ended up. I mean, I personally was in awe, obviously, of the ride, which was just unbelievable, but I was also in awe of the performance of the horse. Number one, didn't really believe that this horse could actually do what it did in terms of the score. Ended up with a plus 5.9. And whether, to me, the trainer finally come to the forefront of being able, in my view, get onto that, I just call it the Group 1 podium of having a horse peaking at the right time and not missing it, in terms of, the way you prepare a horse into big finals. And Golan proved that to me, that he does have that capability, where I'd been sort of a little bit sceptical about whether he can, do it all the time, because he had so many horses that missed and just didn't perform on the day. And I would sort of try and look at their profiles and their runs and say, did you give them one run too many, or many other factors. But in this case, he really did stun me with the performance and the way they prepped the horse. And then when we look at the performance itself, have a look at it, Ralphie. 1 length below benchmark, first split time. That's to the 800. And then between the 8 and the 4, plus 8.7. That's monster, honestly.
That's Blake Shin saying, you're going now because everyone else is going to tire as I take off.
Super winning move, right?
Yeah.
Super winning move. And then still... And this is the hard part, Ralphie. He still had plus 1.2 at the end over the last 400 metres. So when we talk about like mid-race squeezes, you look at the mid-race squeeze in isolation, it's 9.7. The reality is, when you have such a high extension in the middle on a near benchmark first section, that's when you start to get serious insight about what the elite level horses can potentially look like. Now, Tino's always showed that he's got some sort of serious potential, but just never quite laid it all down. And I personally felt that a lot of it had to do with the trainer. And now I'm dispelling that, and I'm looking at, and I look at the charting of the horse and say, okay, here we are, Antino, race matrix, all-time high, 4.5. We've got a rock-solid overall IVR adjusted figure of 5.9. Now, when you look at this horse's progression, as a 3-year-old, it was 0.1 above benchmark, Ralphy. As a 4-year-old, it was 3.7 above. Now, this is interesting. As a 5-year-old, 2.7 below. See, you ask yourself, like, did the horse get to the top and that's it? And then the question is, can you recapture your 3.7 from the prior year? But no, the horses come out in the 6-year-old range and put down a plus 5.9. So I sit back and say, okay, can this horse go further than that? Or did we see something extraordinary and all the stars aligned in that moment? Well, the reality is, no matter how I look at Antino now, it's a genuine 4.5 to 6 range horse, which is fantastic. It's going to be, like, if you go to Hong Kong, you're going to be very competitive on that, if you can repeat that number.
Yeah, unfortunately he got smashed up when he went there, so let's hope he gets back in one piece, because horses don't like bad experiences, that's for sure. So that's his challenge. But
what actually happened there
was he went to that next level.
What actually happened to him in Hong Kong? I didn't see the race.
Just in the run, he was midfield, and then Blake went to make the run, and a couple of horses got him around him. It was your hard competitive racing, let's say, at its best. And he's physically okay, but it wasn't much fun in the run, and I think Blake was lucky to keep his feet at one stage. So
okay, and the horse is not staying there; it's coming back home.
No, it's coming back. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's good news. That's good news.
Absolutely.
Most of these horses will be good.
And let's again, thank Racing.com for their audio. Is Pride of Jenny, but she was the third best performer, and this is Melbourne and Sydney. We're about to get to some Sydney horses of the spring at Moonee Valley under lights.
Pride of Jenny has a really good buffer. 200 to go. She's 5 lengths in front. Mr. Brightside's chipping away. Pride of Jenny trying to find the reserves at the 100. She's 3 in front of Mr. Brightside. It's all too late. Pride of Jenny has run them into the night. Pride of Jenny bailing.
And Vince, it was a 4-horse field, but wow, what a contest this was to watch. Up to 10 lengths in front. Kira Ma post-race said, unbelievable. I just can't thank the team enough to have her back. That's what racing's all about. Nights like this, really good racing. Unfortunately, it's the last we saw her winning, and we won't be seeing her again after she bled at Flemington. But what a phenomenal 12 months it was watching this mare.
Oh, look, wow, is really what I could say. It was such a beautiful thing to see. And again, Ralphie, when people get the opportunity to have a look at that document and you see the profile, 3-year-old benchmark, plus 2 as a 4-year-old, plus 3.5 as a 5-year-old, and then plus 5.6 getting into a 6-year-old. Mind you, not a lot of horses can do these things, Ralphie. We know that mares can, right? But a lot of horses can't keep going the way they did, and I can't believe how the Kieran Maher stable have been able to get so much out of this horse in terms of high level performances. Absolutely stunning in what they've been able to do. And again, probably the most heroic part is how fast and getting that tempo right and what it can do through the first 2 sections. I mean, you just look at its profile, Ralphie. I mean, there were so many runs where this horse was able to comfortably run 10 plus, right? And still be, well above benchmark in the middle and usually, crush the competition. And on that particular day that you were talking about, I mean, it was just amazing the pace that they went out, and it makes it hard for horses.
And the second was Mr. Brightside, third was Antino, fourth was Attrition, who then won a feature in Sydney. So of course a 4-horse race, and all 4 of them just outstanding horses. This is a horse though that we can look forward to in the autumn and beyond. It was Seawolf.
My Oberon moved up to Pride of Jenny, my Oberon, and here's Cheerwolf, the Epsom winner, with a booming run down the outside. Cheerwolf takes the lead and won the King Charles.
And Vince, he was just absolutely stunning in the King Charles. Mind you, this is an interesting one. It probably gets to one of your fundamentals as well. Someone explained to me he went up 4.5 kilos in weight from his Epsom. How much did he improve from the Epsom to the King Charles? Well, he was just stunning in the King Charles. Your 4th best IVR performance of the spring.
Well, Ralphie, again, this is the horse that really, really, one of the 2 horses that absolutely excites me going into 2025. To see this particular horse hit that board with a plus 5.2 best performance of the day. Mind you, when you break it all down, it's not like something out of this world, but almost benchmarked through the first section that day. Plus 5 in the mid, between the 8 and the 4. Overall last 400, plus 1. 5.2, 4.8 on the race matrix. But the stunning part's this, again, like when I graph this horse up, Ralphy, and I look at the trend line, and we'll see in the little report that I sent that we'll have an example of Switzerland. But when you graph up Seawolf, the trend line shows that this horse is trending potentially to around a plus 8 range, which is so exciting. And I'm going, okay, probably the biggest trender out of the group of horses that you've picked out for us to look at this morning. And I just sit back here and say, please, Mr. Pride, please get it right.
So he resumed as a gelding this prep. And so that takes the second step of, he was showing promise as a colt, resumed as a gelding. Gee, I've seen, and we've seen many, many times where the first prep as a gelding is not their best one. They improve again as a second prep as a gelding.
Well, this is it, right? Like it's a 3-year-old plus 1.7, 4-year-old plus 5.2. And just put the little pin there, Ralphie. Let's see if we get there, right?
Yeah.
In 25, hopefully are we going to see it in the autumn?
Well, 100%. And this is
just, I love it.
Let's have a spitball at the end of the year. You would think, and this horse had one run at 2,000 metres in the spring. Of course, he was narrowly beaten in a derby as well as an autumn 3-year-old. You would think there's the big circle around the Queen Elizabeth at 2,000 metres. It would be the grand final this prep. What's your rough thoughts? And again, this is 4 months out, but if it goes to if he targets the Queen Elizabeth, what's his 2,000 potential at this stage?
Well, if we look at just that run at Randwick, 3 starts prior to the very last run it had for the prep, where it went 2.1 above, it's a little bit of an outlier in the sense that, okay, the overall figure was only 2.1, race matrix 1.3, but when you make a readjustment of the energy distribution, where the horse has gone minus 10.1, and when you balance that out, it actually brings this is one of the ways where I got this horse to get up in the 8 range, right? Ralphie, is part of my, marking about where I'm pinning you as a peaking performance in your next preparation at 2,000. I have high level confidence that this horse is going to run plus 6.8 at 1,600, but I actually feel this horse can do that at 2,000 metres because that's where I marked the line on. Because when I readjusted it and said, okay, a more blended view of the minus 10, what's that look like? And the figures are all coming out like on the low 7.2, on the high 9.1. That's why I said 8. This is where I'm headed with you. Super excited.
Right. Once again, courtesy of Sky Racing, this is Darren Flindell, and this is a surprise if you ask someone to pick the 5th best performance, would you, or the top 5 performances off the top of your head, would you include Royal Patronage in the tramway? Well, he turned up at his first Australian run and he was dynamic.
And Royal Patronage got to the front, kicked away there from Felix Majesty. Amelia's Jules knuckling down late, but it's too late. Drawing clear here, Royal Patronage. What a great Australian debut.
And Vince, what did he do on the clock? And does this maybe suggest that next prep could be his best? Because sometimes the camps like finding out what they're like early, these inputs, and maybe that just flattened him for the rest of the prep. But he was stunning on this day.
I absolutely, without question, super stunning. Came out and just put an unbelievable performance down. Plus 5 race matrix in the 3 range. But again, when we look at the structure and the breakdown, 1.9 above early, 6.8 above in the mid. Plus 2.4 overall, last 400 metres. I'm probably, my only little bit of cold water I want to put on it is I wonder what that run at the Valley, does to the horse.
In the Cox Plate.
When you're asked to go 13.2, like it did so much. And I get it, right? There's unbelievable money on the table to be taken. And it doesn't matter which stable you are. And if you were an owner, you want them to run everywhere to get the money. But sometimes that can maybe impact them. And I'm not sure now whether we really and truly get to see the very best of this horse, or it could be, Ralphie, the horse tasted some of that medicine and it comes back even better and stronger. But right now, we're looking at the age range 6+5. I can't, when I do like the graph on this horse and profile, I have set my sights that you're a +3 to 5 horse. And of course, would I love you to be better than that? Because if you can get up and be in that +5 or slightly higher, it's going to the register's going to ring money. Yeah.
Well, speaking of the register that rings money, Michael Christian and the team and Bella Nipotina, have they had a ride? She surpassed in this race in the Russell Balding. This is after winning the Everest, mind you, and we'll get to the comparison of the two races. When she won the Russell Balding, she was just dynamic in a high-pressure Rosehill 1300.
Bella Nipotina takes the lead of the 200, and Bella Nipotina draws 2 lengths clear now from Lady Laguna, Sunshine in Paris. But this is a big payday for the Iron Lady, Bella Nipotina, winning the Russell Balding comfortably.
And Vince, like I said, that it saw her past 20 million. She beat the Nisham Archibald pair of Sunshine in Paris and Lady Laguna. But this is also interesting. Throughout a remarkable run, she virtually didn't have the type of high-pressure setup that she had here. And that stopped her from backing up really at Flemington, because this was just insane pressure.
Well, yeah, a few things with this horse, Ralphie. Number one, lessons learnt for me, Vinny. Number one, about I missed a lot of opportunities with this horse in making money. I really did, because first of all, as you know, Ralphie, when you look at the platform, how many horses do you see on the platform where you just go down their numbers and all you see is green? That means they're all above benchmark performances, right?
It's remarkable. I'm looking at it now. She just kept turning up.
Yeah, it's freaky. And that's like, hitting me on the head for myself, saying I missed so much money. And it was just because I couldn't get it out of my head with all the runs. But performance-wise, when I was just sitting back, this was yesterday morning, and just really reflecting on this horse, and then I just pulled up the age profile. 2-year-old -1.1, 3-year-old +1.6, 4-year-old 3.1 above, 5-year-old 3.6 above, and then how many times, Ralphie, I don't know how many years ago when we first discovered this thing about the mares, when they get to 6 and older, they could still improve, 4.8.
Yeah.
And you look at that and you say, please, why didn't you make more money out of this horse? Because it's a bit of a rare find in terms of all the greens.
Well, and not just all the greens. Let me just say, Flemington, Melbourne, Randwick, Sydney, Ascot, WA, Doomben, Queensland, Eagle Farm, Queensland, back to Sydney. Oh, amazing.
Yeah, and most of the time starting at a delicious price.
Yep.
So, yes. And then the last part, because I wanted to bring this back to where you started the whole conversation about that run. First time ever. Plus 7.6 first section. Unbelievable, right? 4.3 above between the 8 and the 4, and then out and dropped off. Now, Ralph, is this horse going to be running in season or in 2025?
No, I haven't heard otherwise. I assume so. Yeah.
So I'm going to be fascinated to see what Bella Nipotina does. Now, the question is this, a more serious question, and maybe this is going to be the enigma for me on this horse and more lessons to be learned. I don't know, right? I always do my best, but sometimes, your best isn't good enough, right, Ralphie? And I look at it and say, okay, I've pinned you. Can you improve between the band of the sort of 3.5 to 4.8 range? Is there more? Because the weird thing is this: when I sort of rebalance that run on that Rosehill over 1300 and looking at that optimum performance, the weird thing is the indicator was also suggesting this horse possibly could have had a +6 under the bonnet. And I'm going, okay, all right, well, I'm going to mark you down, and that means hopefully we're going to have another serious horse that we can continue with in 25.
Yeah, and it would say the stable can't keep them going.
Yeah.
They've also been remarkable. All right, like I said, if that's our top 6, that's our end of our free section. If you want to get their numbers 7 through 12, as well as the PDF document that Vince has been referring to as far as the trend lines go, where I think there's a bit of a nugget. You've got to be a member. That's all you got to do. So go to racetrackralphy.com.au, click through the links, become a member, and support the fact that we are corporate bookmaker ad free. We always have been, always will be. We give the best information we can every Monday, and we also support people who support us. So if you want to get that extra stuff, which I will include, I will state that this list also includes Ka Ying Rising, the Hong Kong superstar that Vince has put the lens over. So, like I said, we will be discussing that in part 2. In the meantime, we'll be back in 2 weeks' time, post Magic Millions Day. Thanks for listening to Year-Round Carnival.